was like,
okay. All right. Well, we're at the top of the hour, so let's go ahead and officially start. Thank you all for those of you who have joined in so far, and for those of you that are watching this later, we welcome you as well. My name is Jim Eaton, and I serve on the interim youth ministry team. We're going to introduce ourselves. Maybe let's tell where we serve, and so everybody knows. So go ahead.
Yeah, I'm Matt, serve the Pacific Southwest Conference, live in Sacramento.
And I serve the Midwest Conference, and I live in Colorado Springs.
And I serve the Pacific Northwest Conference, and I live in Portland, Oregon. And we're all right now in Chicago. That's why we're wearing these fancy name tags. We're coming to you live from Midwinter. We thought this would be fun because our topic that we chose to do our webinar today on is connections. So we've been here connecting all week long, and it made sense as a way to kind of have some fun. We're doing a webinar while we're in the midst of connecting.
Yeah, super great time to be here together, and that's one of the things that's part of the ethos or the context of the covenant is being in relationship together, being in each other's lives, supporting each other, celebrating together the highs of ministry, and walking beside each other in the lows of ministry, brainstorming, dreaming, strategizing, visioning together in all of the wonderful hallway conversations that happen and come out of breakouts and things with new ideas. So it's a really great way to not walk through ministry alone. And so, yeah. So big picture today, we're going to talk about different ways to connect with others in the covenant so that you are not a lone ranger, that you're not isolated by yourself, feeling like there's no hope, there's no help. And we want to make sure that you are connected. So we've got a few ways that we wanted to share with you to do that. And so the very first thing is, as Matt said, is to be here at, is it housekeeping?
Being interrupted by housekeeping.
Yeah, I love it. All right. We'll cut that out, maybe. Maybe not. We'll just leave it in.
Yeah. Actually, I want to back up a minute.
Yeah.
And just kind of lay out a little bit why we felt this was an important topic. So we're today doing one of our CovYouth 101 webinars. And in these webinars, we're attempting to kind of lay out some the basic skills and training and some of the things that every youth worker could really use and help. So that would be helpful for them in ministry, especially if you're new, but if you've been in ministry for a while as well, we find it helpful as well. And so one of the things that, as we have interacted with a lot of different youth ministry leaders in the past, we've discovered, and research I think shows this as well, is that youth workers can tend to be very lonely and feel isolated in their positions in their churches. And our youth ministry leadership team is working really hard to help combat that because we want all of our youth workers to be known, connected, and resourced. And so that known piece is key, we feel, for a youth ministry leader to be able to have a long-term flourishing ministry. And so today, what we're going to be sharing are ways that you can make connections with other people outside of your local ministry context so you don't feel like you're going alone. So you don't, to break out of that isolation, that feeling that you are have nobody to support you or to hear about your trials or even your joys and that kind of thing. And so today we want to, most of all, encourage you to not go alone. And if you are especially feeling lonely or isolated, know that we're here. We're going to provide some ideas and resources on the way you can make different kinds of connections. And if you are maybe been in ministry for a while, and maybe have a few connections already, maybe you'll get some additional ideas for further connections, because it almost kind of feels like maybe you guys would disagree, but I feel like you can't have too many connections in ministry. Like the more that you have people alongside you moving forward in ministry, the better. And like I said earlier, like you probably have that in your church. You might have your lead pastor or your volunteers or other key leaders that you feel like you're in ministry in line together. But that is a great connection. But there's an additional value in having a connection with somebody that's not like in the trenches with you, someone who's not carrying that burden with you. So they can kind of give you an outside or an objective view of what's going on. They can be empathetic without having to feel like they're connected with the particular problem that you're going through. And a lot of times in our ministry context, we ended up, in a sticky situation, or we have a challenge that we don't feel like it's safe to talk about it within our context. Like something might come around and get us in trouble later if we were to share it out loud, especially if you're having like conflict with your lead pastor or those kind of things. And so it's critical to have some connections and support outside of your ministry context to help you through the different challenges you might face in your ministry.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would add to like our goal as the interim youth ministry team with our conference coaches is to help youth workers be known, connected, and resourced, right? And so being connected and not being alone is all about being known by others, but then also not just like knowing is great, but also being connected into community, into the networks and things that we're going to talk about today. So so that's exactly what we're all about. So cool.
I think sometimes people just don't know what connections are out there.
Yeah.
Just like, here's a recipe, here's a menu, here's a whole list of ingredients, places that you can go. And so hopefully in the next like 25 minutes, we give you a lot of options. And if you've never thought of them, try one.
Yeah, exactly. And if you like look at that menu and you always have a go-to, like at a Chinese restaurant, I always look at chicken fried rice, like no matter what.
You gotta get out more.
Yeah, I know, exactly.
There's so
like
much good
that's
stuff.
what I'm saying. I gotta try something off like the lo mein menu or something,
Beef chaplain. Next time you go, just say,
There we go.
I need beef chaplain, wide noodle, beef. There
we go. So that's the idea. Like if you've been doing one thing, maybe try something new as a result of this. So cool.
And I don't know if we maybe said this earlier, but I'd love for us to, even as we go along, we're not just going to share information, but maybe stories like our own personal experience of how some of these connections were meaningful for us.
Sounds good. Okay. So the very first thing that we want to we have two categories. Okay. Today we have like a covenant connections category. This is ways that you can plug into things happening within the Evangelical Covenant Church. We also have the second part is kind of other ways that are not necessarily covenant that you can connect in with, and some really great resources that we can all kind of connect with outside of the covenant. So that's kind of the idea of the format for what we're going to share here. So the first thing is within the covenant, we've got some events that are really, really helpful. And we're at Midwinter. It's clearly the first one. And with that is the Next Gen Conference. And so in the context of youth ministry, we highly, highly encourage you to attend the Next Gen Conference. For me, at the Next Gen Conference, I've been to every one since 2003, I think, 2004 maybe,
Wow.
2003. And so, but why I come back is because the very first one, I walked in and I didn't know anybody, but a guy named John Duvall was the youth pastor that I was interning with, and he just said, "Hey Jim," yeah, you know John, he's been around a long time, and he just said, "Jim, just hang with me, and I'm just going to introduce you to everybody I know, or everybody that we come across with." And by the time I left Next Gen, I felt like I had 10 new friends, and people I could go back and stay in fellowship with.
That's great.
And in the future, subsequent ones, this became a place, Next Gen became a place where I felt like I could connect with Jesus in a way that I couldn't in other contexts. I'd been to other conferences, youth ministry conferences, youth worker retreats in my local conference, things like that. But there's just something about being here in this place kind of with family that my heart was just opened up and a little bit more, a little differently. And there's just been multiple times in this event where I've just experienced kind of just a stronger connection to the Lord. So for me, that's why I have the value continuing to come back. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on the next.
I was just going to say, we feel a little bad, especially if anybody who's watching today, because you might be like, "Oh, Next Gen just ended," great, But here's the thing: is I know that it can take a lot of pre-planning to get to Next Gen. It's not necessarily cheap, depending on where you live. And so now is actually the time if you would like to try to make it to join us Next Gen next year, which is going to be in Denver.
Yes.
And I'll say it's much better in Denver than it is in Chicago. Start making plans for that now. Like now is a good time to maybe put a word in your pastor's ear or your leadership team's ear or your finance committee leader's ear or whatever. Say, "Hey, I really love to go to Next Gen." Play a clip of what Jim just shared, or something to let them see the value for you to be able to come, so that they can start planning ahead. So you're not asking, in September, October for the money you need in order to get here, and they're like, "Oh, our budget's already set. Sorry." So now is actually the perfect time to start making plans to come to next year.
Yeah. And what's really cool is that you can pay a deposit once they open registration, but then pay the balance next year after January 1st. So if you need that, like for budget purposes, yeah, you can pay an early bird deposit. Like it's been $100. I would assume it would be the
Oh,
same.
I see what you're saying.
And then
the due comes in 2025.
In the next budget year. Yeah. So if you haven't budgeted for it yet, maybe you can find $100, pay the deposit, and budget for it next year.
Good idea.
So yep, at least for your registration. So yeah,
I like that. I think it's good to start with the national conference, right? Because we're all a part of the covenant. Like if you're watching this, you're part of the covenant.
Yeah.
And this is the one place that we all come together at once, which means it's going to be the most expensive, probably the hardest to get to, and it moves. Like Chicago, Denver, last time we were in Jacksonville, and it moves. There's more local retreats for you that happen within our conferences. And every conference is different in what they offer. Some conferences offer pastors retreats, some offer pastors and staff retreats, some offer youth retreats. And so we kind of have to pay attention to our conference. Every conference has a website, and not everybody knows that. Not everybody even knows what conference they're in. I didn't when I first started in youth ministry. And so my encouragement really is go to your conference webpage, figure out which conference you're in, go to their website, and then see what activities are available. Often a pastor's retreat is not hundreds and hundreds of dollars, and you don't have to get on a plane. Sometimes you do, but you're not flying across the country. You're staying within a more close region. And the opportunity to be with others from just your region is really helpful. And it's going to cost a whole lot less. Every one of our conferences has to have an annual meeting. They happen in April, I think. Ours is in April. Yours in April. Yeah.
Springtime, at least.
Yeah, and I know it sounds like it's a business meeting, and a lot of it is a business meeting, but it's also a time to be together. And so depending on where your conference hosts that, if you've never been, most youth pastors end up going to their first one because they're getting licensed in the covenant, and it's like a requirement. You need to go and see what it's like for us to do our business together. I would encourage you to go check it out before then. Go and see what an annual meeting is like. Go and see what your pastors' gatherings are like, and be a part of a retreat. Check it out. It's probably held at one of your local camps. And if your conference has no camps, then you're probably in a hotel, which may or may not be better for you. You never know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right on. Yeah, that's good thoughts. So another place that you can connect in, Matt was talking about conference annual meetings. Our denomination, the ECC's annual meeting is called Gather. And so you'll see that language on the Covenant website and things like that coming up. And it's in June every year. And like Midwinter, it moves different locations. So some years it's easier to get to or cheaper than others, depending on where you're at in the country. So, but that's a great place to meet people that are from a very different kind of context of ministry, because here at Midwinter is really for pastors and staff in a church. It's not designed for just the kind of average layperson or like church chairs or things like that. And so at Gather, you get to meet a whole bunch of other people that are coming together as the church to do the business of the church. And that's another great place to connect and get to see it from a little different angle, a little different perspective, who we are as the Evangelical Covenant Church. That's where you get to be a part of, especially if you're a delegate, you get to be a part of the business. And so you get to have a voice in the conversation. And so that's a really great connection point as well. So any thoughts on that?
Well, I just want to highlight something that Matt has pointed out to me many times. A few times anyway. Annual meeting kind of feels like a big business meeting. We're passing budgets and stuff, but it's also a huge celebration of what the covenant is doing and has done. And that almost gets eclipsed a lot of times by all the kind of minutia of details. And I don't want you to overlook that. So even if you can't go to the annual meeting, all the meetings are live streamed, and you can watch what's happening and see what the covenant's been up to. And that might not feel like the personal connection that we've been talking about, but it is a way for you to connect with the larger covenant and really kind of, I feel like it kind of makes me proud of being a part of this denomination. I want to be connected more when I see all these things that the covenant is doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the other big, really big one is Unite. For those of you that have been around a little bit, formerly called CHIC, Covenant High Schoolers in Christ. But Unite is a great opportunity to get connected to others. And then this is for your students. And what's really unique about Unite is this is the largest gathering of Covenanters that happens ever. And so that is a really cool thing that you and your students get to experience and to see, wow, this is really who we are on a grander scale. So it's happening in 2024, this year, obviously. So we encourage you to sign up and bring your students to that if at all possible. But yeah, I'm curious what you guys, you're smiling like you got some thought. So what's on your mind, man?
You know, Unite is coming. It's coming fast. It's already January.
Yeah.
It's not too late to figure it out. I will admit this, maybe I'm confessing, I don't know. When I was a youth pastor for like 15 years and I went to Chick in 06, 9, 12, 15, I didn't actually start fundraising or planning until January. And between January and March, we raised all our money. Yeah, and I'm a little crazy like that.
Yeah,
I just said, we're not going to raise for 3 years. We're not going to raise for 1 year. We're not going to raise for 6 months, but we can get it all done in 8 weeks. So I just know it's possible. Like you can book all your tickets, you can raise all your money, you can convince everybody to go. It doesn't actually take a year, it doesn't have to. Sometimes you don't have that time. And so right now, like, welcome to my timeline. This is what I used to do. So it is possible. You just got to put some effort in.
You know, just to add one more thing is I know lots of youth leaders that it was going to Chick in the past or Unite last year where they finally felt like they made connection with people, because you spend a lot of time with people and there are opportunities for youth workers to be together and meet each other. And I know of like lifelong friendships between youth leaders that were started at past Unite Chick events. So it seems like a huge event that's like for your students, and it is, but it's also like a perfect setup for you to make personal connections with other youth ministry leaders.
Yeah, for sure. So those are great things. And also just a note on Unite here, we had a webinar, or not a webinar, this is a webinar. We had a breakout session at Next Gen where we had some great Q&A and some information that was handed out. And that information we posted already in the Unite tab here on CovYouth.com. Click Unite on the left-hand side, and then you can hit the resources tab, correct? And it's the first 2 things that are posted there. So make sure you check that information out. So yeah, Matt, you told us about conference retreats and annual meetings. And so Eric, talk about the local opportunities that exist across the denomination.
Yeah. So I'll cover a few things quickly. As you know, as we look across the covenant nationally, there's a huge variety of churches and conferences, and none of them really look exactly the same. And because of that, like opportunities kind of shift and kind of look different conference to conference. Some of our conferences are able to facilitate local, like in-person gatherings. The Northwest Conference is really good at that. Ginny is fantastic at doing that just about monthly. Others do maybe quarterly, or just maybe as they come up and such. You know, depending on where your church is, and you know, if there are other churches nearby, that may make sense or it may not. But here's the thing I'd like to say to that: when you see that opportunity come up, I would encourage you to put it at the very top of your priority list, because those are going to be key for your flourishing in ministry. I don't know how many times I've, as a network leader, been organizing those kind of things, and I send a text or send an email to people and say, hey, come, don't forget about our lunch. And they're like, oh, it's this week. I'm like, put it in your calendar. We all have calendars on our phones and such, you know, put it and make it however you like categorize things so that it won't be interrupted by anything else. The other thing people say things are like, oh, I have to get ready for youth group, or, you know, I don't know what it might be. They have something, and I'm like, just make it that priority, and you got to eat lunch, so go have lunch, you know, if it's a lunch meeting. And then here's the other thing is, if there are not like conference coach led gatherings happening in your area, it's a great thing for you to gather youth workers and make that happen yourself. So that might not be happening based on, you know, from our conference coach leadership team. But if you know a couple other covenant youth leaders, make it happen. And if you do, please let us know that's happening, because we would love to support as much as we can. We can probably even help financially if some of your youth leaders can't afford lunch, or, you know, whatever it is. I mean, we want to like eliminate all the barriers, because we want to see those connections happening. So that's an opportunity there. And then there's a couple other things that we are in process right now of developing, or they're great ways to connect. So one is cohorts. We have our first cohort opportunity available right now. We're calling it the Relational Discipleship Kickstart Cohorts.
Say that fast. Like,
Yeah, I know. I have to stop and think about it every time.
Yeah.
I think I messed it up on stage at Next Gen.
It's terrible, but it's descriptive.
Yeah,
Exactly.
So the Relational Discipleship Kickstart is a tool that we are utilizing from the group called 10 by 10. I don't have time to explain it today, but you'll get an email next week explaining it more with an invitation to this. But they've identified 7 relational discipleship emphases that we all agree are fantastic. We would love to see every one of our youth leaders grow in, whether you're brand new or been in ministry a long time. There's a lot that you can learn from this. And the Kickstart is like a deep dive into those emphases. And we're providing cohorts to be able to go through that Kickstart together. And so if you look at the CovYouth.com, right where you're looking at right now, on the left-hand side, you'll see a Relational Discipleship Kickstart Cohorts tab. Click on that, and you can sign up for a 10-week cohort. They'll start either at the end of February, beginning of March, depending on how we organize them. Some of them will be like conference-based. Some of them will be for everybody all over the country. We're just kind of got to wait and see how many people sign up, and look forward to 10 weeks with a week break in the middle for Easter. And if you've ever been a part of a cohort, you know that's a great way to connect with people. You'll be meeting with them over Zoom and chatting with each other online. And my hope is that through these cohorts, lifelong friendships will form, as well as really helpful youth ministry training. We will have additional cohorts in the future. We have lots of ideas about the ways we can engage with that, but this is going to be our first kind of foray into that. And best of all, it's totally free.
Yeah.
You can be a part of it, totally free. And then the other thing is that we're still in kind of the, go ahead.
I have a thought on that.
Oh, yeah, please do.
I just wanted to say, in the past, I've been hesitant to jump into some of these things because I'm like, it's cheesy. Maybe I feel like I've learned it, stuff like that. But I was really impressed. We were, as ECC, we were invited into the vetting process and even the kind of the creation process. So we got to be in a pilot and give feedback. And what I was really impressed by, to be honest, is that the feedback we gave in week 1 showed up in week 2. Like they made the changes. And so I felt like our voice was heard and like listened to, you know? And so anyway, yeah. So I just thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
So I feel like if you're wondering like, oh, it sounds cheesy and just another dumb thing to do. No, I actually think this is really, really good. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
Like I said, the RDK, Relational Discipleship Kickstart, is a tool developed by 10 by 10, and we have a really great relationship with 10 by 10.
Yeah, there you go.
I met with their a person, I don't know what Lisette's title is, but she's like operations manager or something for 10 by 10 just last night. Matt met with her earlier this week. We had Robert Purdy, their director of church connections here, our strategy here during Next Gen. Our cohorts are kind of like going to be blazing the path forward for them as they offer cohorts to the rest of the country. So this is not just some rinky-dink, cheesy, something. It's significant and it'll be helpful for them.
It'll be valuable. Yeah.
And then the other thing, just we'll mention quickly, is we are in the process right now of developing coaching opportunities for youth ministry leaders as well. We've had a lot of our conference coaches and other leaders go through the coach training that the Covenant offers, and we are developing a system to make connections between those coaches and you, so that you can get coaching in your context. And there's like a coach-coachee relationship that often develops into friendship, and that's a great connection opportunity that's coming soon as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. Mm-hmm. So the next piece that we're going to shift to is our ecumenical opportunities, things that kind of exist outside the covenant. And so tell us a little bit about like local networks, and you're connected into some leadership and some things in your own area, but what does that look like for those of us not in Seattle area or Portland? Yeah,
so earlier this week, I shared a resource on CovYouth.com, and it's the National Network of Youth Ministry website, basically. And that's something I've been a part of for over 20 years. And so kind of as a volunteer, like outside of my role as a covenant pastor, I've been helping to organize a youth ministry network for all kinds of churches in the city that I've been a part of for this whole time. So while I was in Portland at Portland First Covenant, I ran a network there. And now that after I left there, I've been running one near my home, which is in Clackamas, Oregon, and those are networks that are listed on that website, so if you were to go to that website, you can type in your city, your zip code, your address, and it'll tell you any networks that it knows of that are nearby, and I highly recommend them. Of course, our covenant network connections are the best, and you should go to those first. If you're given a choice, go to our covenant ones first, right? But they're not always as available, and there is something about, I have found, connecting with other youth leaders that are doing ministry in my community that is really, really powerful. And I've seen some pretty amazing relationships with some of my best friends that I get together with outside of ministry and such came out of those network meetings that I've been a part of leading. Those are the ones that I feel like know my context better than anybody else. And so when I've struggled because of relationships within my church or within the community or such, they've always been there to really support and do it well. So I can't share, I think, strongly enough how valuable I feel those networks have been in my ministry for me to be able to serve for a long time. They have what kept me going when things have gotten the hardest.
Right on. Yeah, those are great local connections. I know in the last two communities I served in, I was a part of those as well, and just great camaraderie. And what's really fun is when you get to a point where you start to dream about how can we do events together, and bring your youth groups together, and then you're really showing your kids hey, we all love Jesus. One group might be Baptist or Catholic or Lutheran or whatever, but we all love Jesus, and that's okay. And we can have a few little differences in different communities, and that's okay, because we're all heading in the same direction. And I think youth workers unified and that being seen in the community actually communicates something very significant to students about who Jesus is and what the kingdom of God looks like. So that's awesome. Yeah.
And I would just add to that, if you look on that website and you don't see a network, or no one has invited you to a network in your area already, once again, don't be brave.
Go make it.
And start it. Find a youth leader nearby, call up and say, hey, you want to get coffee? Or In-N-Out or chicken, whatever is your thing.
Yeah.
And just let it start to grow organically there. And I mean, I can guarantee, I can't guarantee, I can't offer money, right? But you will be blessed. It'll help your flourish in ministry for a long time. Yeah. As much as I can guarantee, I can guarantee it.
Indeed. Awesome. So Matt, there's we obviously have the Next Gen conference here, which we already talked about. But are you aware of other types of conferences that would be great for youth workers to connect into outside of the covenant if they so choose?
Yeah, I'll start with the bad news first. Now, the bad news is there used to be a lot of them. And post-COVID, there's not as many. Pre-COVID, there were not as many. Yeah, and for a decade now, there's just been not as many conferences for youth pastors. The good thing is there's still a few. Yeah, and so, if you use the Orange curriculum and you want to go to the Orange conference out in Atlanta, it's worth it. It's the same as coming up here price-wise. I mean, you got to get to a major airport, you got to stay in a hotel, food, but it's worth it. So if you're at a church that's got a budget, or you're at a church where somebody wants to gift you with a conference budget, it's really good. If you have a local conference, I mean, there are smaller conferences that maybe they're not in the thousands, but they're in the hundreds, that sometimes large churches put on, organizations put on. I would always look for those. For me in the Sacramento area, it's Thrive with Bayside. They just do a great job resourcing pastors. And there used to be, youth specialties conferences, stuff like that. And my suggestion is really take your leaders. That was always huge for us. Find a way to take your actual leaders to these conferences. So there's not just you getting equipped, but they're getting equipped. And sometimes you got to hunt for them. And if there's a mental health conference in your area, often put on by a school district or a junior college, check it out. Go to those things. They might not be Christian focused, but the themes are absolutely going to be important for youth ministry.
Yeah, and they're going to equip you. Yeah, I've never thought that I should go to a curriculum writing conference and I may never, but that would be an example. Doesn't sound like fun, but I'm sure I get there, walk away with tons of resources. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's great. Yeah, actually, there's a student leadership development conference in Des Moines, Iowa. That's really interesting. So find what's in your area and connect in if you can. I'm curious if you guys have ever brought volunteers or interns to Next Gen or formerly Youth Workers Connection.
Next Gen, yeah. I mean, if you have an intern, bring them.
Yeah. Have you ever done that? Yeah, I have too. And it's amazing, just the whole travel, the trip together, processing, and connecting. And now they're youth pastors in the covenant. Not that that's the goal, but it's just cool to broaden that network in. So yeah, cool. Okay, awesome. So the last kind of ecumenical opportunity we want to let you know about is some cohorts and some resources through our partner youth ministry consultants. And so they're based out of Colorado. Rebecca Jacobson is our key point of contact there. She's a former covenant youth worker. And also Ginny Olson is on their staff or their team, whatever you want to call it, as well. And they're providing some phenomenal resources. And so if you go to youthministryconsultants.org, you'll be able to find some great webinars that they've put out. They're a little different than ours, different content and things. Really, really great quality and well done. But you can get in free with the code ECC. It was ECC 24, but now it's 24. So, because we're in 2024. So there you go. So make sure you change that code if you've done those before. ECC 24. The ECC is literally blessing us with the financial partnership, finances to be able to partner with them to provide those resources to you for free. So please be sure to take advantage of that. You can get, as soon as you sign up for one, you're on the mailing list. And so you'll get the future ones. But if you haven't done that yet, what you can do, go into their webinar library, and you can click on the previous webinars that are posted there. They're all still there. You can register for one of those, use the same code, and it'll get you into those free. You'll have access to all of their library as well, which is really, really cool. So, and then you'll be in their system to get access to their future opportunities. So, and they also offer some cohorts. They also offer some coaching, and there's discounts related to our relationship with them as well. So you can make sure you talk with them and connect in with them. So they've got some great stuff out there. So yeah, I know I promoted those to people in my conference, and people were like, "We're actually doing this. We can actually get access to this for free." And I was like, "Yeah." They're like, "This is awesome. Thank you." So so there we go. So make sure you participate in those opportunities as well. So yeah. So is there anything we want to say to wrap up? Is there anything we missed?
Well, I think we covered all the details there. I just want to kind of reiterate, just my own personal life. The connection with other youth ministry leaders has been that will sustain me more than anything in ministry. And I'm so grateful for the friends that I've made locally, but also nationally. I consider these guys friends as well. And the way you guys, whether you've known it or not, have helped me to sustain a ministry. I just really appreciate it. And it's what I really hope for and desire for all of our ministry leaders. And if you don't have that, if you're not experiencing that right now, you feel alone, you feel isolated in ministry, don't just sit in that space. Check out all the resources that we mentioned, but know that we're all available. Your conference coach is available, and we would love to be at least one person that could be a contact and a help for you in those spaces. So don't go it alone. Don't be a lone ranger. Don't feel like you have to sit in an isolated space because we're here for you, and we want you to know that and hear that loud and clear.
Yeah, we should have started with this, but if you're not connected anywhere in CovYouth.com, click the How to Get Help button, click your conference coach, and simply say, "I need to get connected." There you go. That's all you would have to say, and then somebody is gonna walk with you to get connected. Yep. And maybe we'll edit it and put it at the beginning.
There you go.
Maybe not.
We can try.
We can replace the housekeeping interruption.
Yep, exactly. Sweet. I think it'd be awesome if we prayed for folks and for networks and coaches. Was that something you'd be willing to do, Matt?
Yeah.
Awesome. Let's pray.
Well, God, we're grateful for the opportunity we have to be together and just to look ahead at the connections that are available to us now. We ask that you provide more. Thank you for our best friends in youth ministry. Thank you for our acquaintances in youth ministry. Thank you for the ways that you sharpen us because of other people. So we pray for our youth workers across the covenant that you would bring people into our lives who will celebrate the highs with us and will be with us in the lows and will journey with us as we love others. Amen.
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 All right.
Thanks for joining us. I know that it was like kind of like we put this in our email went out, but like reminder didn't go out till this morning about the rest of it. So I'm really happy for everybody to join us online. Yeah. It's a surprise that we got all you guys to come and join us. So thank you.
Awesome. Right on. Good deal.
Don't forget to check out our other CovYouth 101 webinars that are on CovYouth, and look forward to future ones that are coming every month. We'll have a kind of a foundational, basic, essential skill for youth ministry to look forward to.
Yep. And our February email with the upcoming opportunities in February will be coming out next week as well. So make sure you're paying attention to that. So, okay. Sound good?
Thanks, Jim.
Yep.
Thanks,
exactly. Thanks, guys. That was great. All right. Y'all have a great day. You have to end it. Or somebody has to end it.
Let's just sit here awkwardly and stare at the camera for the next 20 minutes.